It's a Friday edition of Locked On Grizzlies, and you know what that means. We are going to get down on this Friday talking the ideal Memphis edition. We're going to dream it, all you dreamers out there. Plus, we're going to keep it real later on in the show, and we're going to finish up with, speaking of keeping it real, the Grizzlies draft prospects perhaps not too hot in 2025. We're going to talk about all that and more on this edition of Locked On Grizzlies. Let's lock in.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ah, yes, it is Friday. Friday, you have got to get down on a Friday. As the wise philosopher Rebecca Black once said, fun, 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 fun. Looking forward to the weekend. Thank you so much for being with us here on Locked On Grizzlies. If you're an everydayer, you already know on Friday we are partying, looking forward to the weekend. It is I, one of your hosts, Joe Mullinax, joined by my wonderful co-host, the award-winning Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal, Damichael Cole there in Memphis, Tennessee. Hopefully you are safe and enjoying yourself wherever you are, and you're ready to talk Grizzlies basketball for the next 30 or so minutes with us here on Locked On Grizzlies. I am excited to be here. I hope Damichael's excited to be here.
Always,
and I hope you
are
as well.
Yeah.
Damichael, we're going to jump right in, and we're going to we're going to build this thing up. We're going to come in hot from the very beginning. We're going to dream, right? We're dreaming. This is the time of year we're watching unbelievable upsets in the NBA. You talked about parity yesterday, and a positive of that parity is we can dream. The Memphis Grizzlies aren't as far as they seem. We'd say, oh, they're so far away. I'm watching the Indiana Pacers that were dead in the water 4 months ago. People were writing them off as trash. And they are 2 games away from the Eastern Conference Finals. We are 4 total games away, Damichael Cole. I'm a wrestling guy. From the 2 dudes who squared off in the squared circle, looking and staring each other down, 2 wrestling fans. Jalen Brunson had a chair. I don't know if you've seen this clip.
I've seen it. Of course I've seen it.
But that could be the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah. And I personally am rooting for that at this point for that sole purpose. But again, the New York Knicks are flawed. They have like 6 dudes that can play for them, and that's it. Right? They're extremely top heavy. There is reason to dream, and part of that dream is the perfect Memphis Grizzlies acquisition. So let's throw reality out the window for a moment. The fact that Memphis is the 51st largest market in the country. People don't want to go to a landlocked city. Whatever, right? We're just dreaming.
Oh, that's out the window.
If you could think and just close your eyes, who perfectly would fit with these Grizzlies never going to be traded ever edition, right? Like Nikola Jokic isn't coming to Memphis. SGA not coming to Memphis. Let's operate in a modicum of realism.
Okay.
Who is your ideal come to Memphis? Let's see if it works guy.
This one's kind of easy for me, actually. I'm going with easy money sniper. The main guy, Kevin Durant.
The guy that's been rumored to Memphis a couple of times in the past, or at least the Grizzlies tried.
Rumored because of what you just said. They've tried. I mean, they have tried to go get Kevin Durant and to no avail. But yeah, that's my ideal addition, and it makes the most sense. Of course, in this scenario, I'm very big on, I always talk about when people say, "Oh, I want to go get this guy." I say, "Well, who are you going to give up?" So I have to address that when I say, "Oh, okay, Kevin Durant is the ideal guy for me." In this case scenario, who am I giving up? Of the package would have to start with Desmond Bane. I know it's tough.
Wait, hold on, time out. Well, we talked about the tough conversation with Desmond Bane last show, so I'm closer to being fine with you on that than I've ever been before. Where I have an issue is, so is Jaren playing the 5 and Kevin Durant playing the 4, or so you're playing 37-year-old on his second Achilles tendon Kevin Durant at the 3?
Yeah, he can still move his feet well. You see him? He moves well. He moved well down the stretch against the
power forward.
He moves well, period. Kevin Durant can slide his feet.
I don't know, Michael.
You could show me some film of some guards just abusing Kevin Durant off the dribble. It ain't out.
Well, he's long as hell. He's 6 foot.
He
11,
recovers,
right?
Yeah. That's been him since he was younger. He has great agility. for a guy at his size. So, look, I think it's a very natural transition for the Grizzlies because of the fact that you have Jalen Wells, who is a more natural two, as I've talked about. So you go, instead of playing Jalen Wells at the 3, you slide him over to the 2. Then you got Kevin Durant in there. Now you got multiple plus defenders. Kevin Durant's still a plus defender. No matter the fact that Joe Mullinax doesn't like him on the perimeter, he's still an overall plus defender in this league. Teams ain't going at Kevin Durant and saying that's who I want to isolate. That's not happening. So you talk about a starting lineup where you could go John Morant, Jalen Wells, Kevin Durant, Jaren Jackson Jr., Zach Edey. For one, that lineup would be huge, starting with 6'7" Jalen Wells at the 2, 6'10", 6'11" KD at the 3. We know about Jaren and Zach Edey. It would be one of the biggest teams in the NBA. And they have guys who can move well. Jalen Wells moves well. Kevin Durant, Jaren Jackson Jr., Zach Edey for his size moves decently well. And it gets you a closer. We've talked about the half-court scoring issues. You don't lose much shooting. Kevin Durant is one of the best shooters ever for his size. So you lose, Desmond Bane, but you get, one of the best pull-up transition three-point shooters to ever play the game. And overall, just one of the more efficient players. Now, Kevin Durant comes with turnover issues and stuff too, especially at this stage of his career. But he's Kevin Durant. As he said, you know who I am, right? So that's my ideal. If I could just wish upon a star, Joe, as Rose was once said, if I could just wish upon a star, I'm going after Kevin Durant this summer because Phoenix is in a position where they're going to – you talked about the realism part of this. The realism part of this is Phoenix more than likely has to move Kevin Durant. And you're looking at Houston as a potential destination, and there are a couple other teams that are probably going to get in the mix. The Grizzlies can finagle their way in there and say, hey, look, we got a bunch of draft capital. We have, a player like Desmond Bane, and we have a couple, young, talented players that we probably could throw into the deal as well. I think Kevin Durant is my ideal. If I could swing for the fences and go get a guy that can help this team be a championship contender right now, I'm going for Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant is probably the most realistic big name there is, right? Because we know that Memphis has tried in the past. We know that KD says that he's a hooper and all he wants to do is hoop. Okay, well, let's test that, right? Memphis is 100% a place for people that love to play basketball and watch basketball and talk about basketball. I say that all the time. It's a phenomenal basketball city. Okay, KD, you're not in Phoenix anymore. You're not in Brooklyn, but let's see if you can enjoy the twilight of your career playing alongside Ja and Jaren. For the record, according to basketballreference.com, Kevin Durant played more minutes at center for the Phoenix Suns this past season than he did at small forward. But I agree on your KD stance. I would even humor it for Jaren Jackson Jr. And I think you give up a lot less capital beyond, because Bane fitting next to Devin Booker, the fit isn't as clean. I think you can make an argument that Jaren helping out with Devin there in Phoenix makes a lot of sense. I'll go Giannis. Giannis will be my, again, rumored if Giannis wants to leave, if the Bucks want to move on from him.
So are you moving Jaren?
Rumored that. Let me finish.
All right, I got you.
I would say that, assuming that he changes his mind, and when he said city with an M in it, it's Memphis and not Miami, as he was reported to one. I think it was Howard Beck that reported that this week. Miami, Los Angeles, or the New York teams. I would go for Giannis, and I would move on from Jaren. I would tag Jaren in that trade. I would keep Giannis as a pick and roll maven next to Zach Edey. Imagine a Bane, Wells, Ja backcourt with Edey and Giannis in the front court. That's big. That's, you still have some spacing because Giannis obviously is not that floor spacer. I think that it allows for you to keep Santi around, right? And Santi can be your sixth man when you go Giannis at the 5. I think that spacing is a concern. I'm not disputing that. But I think that Giannis, to have the 2 when Ja's right, arguably the 2 best finishers in the paint in the NBA on your team, for a team that supposedly wants to get to the paint fairly often, I think there's a lot of intrigue in there. So I would obviously entertain Bane for Giannis, but I would be willing to go as far as Jaren for Giannis. Would you rather pay Giannis $400 million over 5 years or Jaren $325 million over 5 years? For me, that answer is pretty easy.
Yeah. I get your point there. And Giannis, of course, there are the spacing concerns or whatnot, but still, he's one of the better rebounders at his position. He's another guy who can kind of help operate as a closer in a way. I think Kevin Durant is a better closer, but Giannis, he can help, alleviate some of the pressure off of John Morant in those situations. And of course, he's a plus defender as well. I like both. I like the Kevin Durant and the Giannis. I think there's positive and negatives, both ways. But yeah, those two would definitely be the eye openers. And here's the other thing. I don't know how much you're into this idea, but I think about this a lot because Kevin Durant and Giannis, if they get traded, more than likely they're going to end up at your division rivals. Giannis makes a lot of sense for San Antonio, and Kevin Durant makes a lot of sense for Houston. So if you're into the keeping up with the Joneses type thing, you might want to try to beat one of those teams to get in those guys if it can make your team better and closer to where you want to be rather than them.
Yeah, that's one of the frustrating parts. The Western Conference will almost certainly get tougher if not both of them, especially Giannis coming out west, if that comes to pass. Let Damichael and I know on X at Damichael C at Joe Mullinax. Hit us up there. Hit us up in the comments on YouTube. How are you feeling? Do you agree with our ideal names, right? Within the modicum of realism that Luka Doncic isn't getting traded again, right? He's not coming to the Grizzlies. Giannis and Kevin Durant have been in the rumors. We know that there's been interest in Durant in the past in Memphis. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, we're going to bring it back down a little bit. We're going to get back down into reality and enjoy some gravity, to paraphrase the great B Rabbit from 8 Mile. Let's talk about some real possibilities for the Memphis Grizzlies. Stick around here on Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by DoorDash. I've talked about ordering food way too often here on Locked On Grizzlies, so you know that I know what time it is. Playoff season means big performances and bigger rewards with DoorDash as they bring the heat with a slam dunk deal for DashPass members during the 2025 NBA playoffs. It's called They Swoosh, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, DashPass members score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. You place an order of $20 or more, you use the code Wingstop50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Oh my gosh, crispy, delicious, and totally free. The offer is valid to midnight the day after the game. The offer is valid from noon until midnight the day after the game, and of course, terms apply. I look at my delivery fees and I think all the time, there's got to be a better way, man. DashPass, you can get $0 delivery fees and exclusive perks like this one. How could you save over the season that way? How much? A ton is the answer. So here's the play. Sign up for DashPass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50 plus in a playoff game, DashPass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the next day with a $20 plus order and code Wingstop50. That's DashPass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Of course, terms apply. Go check out DashPass today. Damichael, let's lead our realism conversation off with a name that you brought up, I believe, on yesterday's show.
This is my guy. Yeah,
there's a couple of teams
I've been on
in the
one.
NBA that either have, well, they both actually have had pretty major ownership changes, and their financials are not the cleanest. You've got the Minnesota Timberwolves with A-Rod, right, as one of the new owners out there, Alex Rodriguez. The Boston Celtics are also now under new ownership, and their economic circumstances have been much maligned, not necessarily in terms of them not making money, but in terms of that second apron, that luxury tax. I think only the Golden State Warriors have it off worse than the Boston Celtics. Yeah. So all that to say, those are two teams that potentially could be in the market to move on from some players. Yeah. The one we're going to focus on in this segment is a guy that you have talked about recently, and I'm right there with you. I think he's a perfect fit. And for the mid-level exception, I think he could be had.
Yeah, Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a guy that I could see the Grizzlies targeting, and he makes a bunch of sense. You talk about going to get those guys who are dogs, right? Guys who have a defensive mindset, a mentality. He fits the bill there. But it's not only that. The position versatility, the ability to play multiple positions. He could play on the ball a little bit if you want him to, but he's very effective guarding twos, guarding threes, guarding the point of attack. He would work well as that kind of the other guy other than the starters, right? Other than Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Jalen Wells. If one of those guys come out of the game, you could just put him in any of those spots. You move Desmond Bane over to the 1, and you go Jalen Wells and Nickeil Alexander-Walker as your 2 and 3. You got a terrifying defensive duo right there to go with Desmond Bane. And on top of all of this, Nickeil Alexander-Walker knocks down shots. We're talking about the course of his career. I believe he's around 38% as a three-point shooter, shot 40+% from three-point range this year. So no fluke numbers there. This is what he do. And on top of that, playoff performer. Now this year it's been a little bit, more up and down for him, but he has been in the playoffs. He's played big playoff games. He's had big moments in the playoffs. You go back to that series when the Timberwolves played the Suns. You go back to the series after that. Before that, excuse me, when they played the Nuggets. No, that was after that. When they played the Nuggets after that, he's had some really big moments in the playoffs. So you talk about a guy who has the playoff experience, which is big to me because you talk about intentionality, urgency. That's what the Grizzlies should aspire to get when they go out to get whatever vets can add to this team. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is my guy, Joe. I think he gives you that defensive presence on the perimeter that they're going to need. He can guard ones, he can guard twos, he can guard threes. And on top of that, his ability to shoot the basketball allows for him to be in the lineups with Ja, with Dez, with Jalen. He is the ideal fit. You talk about that mid-level exception. Minnesota ain't going to be able to afford him there. He's making like $4.5 million. You're talking about a potential $10 million bonus for him, because he's going to go from 4.5 probably to 14. And if that's the case, sayonara, Minnesota ain't matching that.
And I do believe Memphis can take advantage of that. That is one of the positives of the Marcus Smart trade being done when it was done, right? That is one of the good things. They can very easily offer the full mid-level exception without being near that second apron. Technically, depending on how they move on from a John Conchar here or how they finagle some things, they could be outside of the luxury tax and bring in NAW. So I think there's certainly some legs to that one. I've got another real one for you, not from Boston, because I think if the Celtics are making deals, they're going to try to find somebody with a little more cap space with an expiring contract to clean up their books.
Yeah.
I read on social media, I think Sean Coleman, our mutual buddy, shared this with me in a text thread. Apparently the one team that had scouts scouting the Grizzlies Thunder series, scouting the Grizzlies in particular, apparently, I wish I had the source in front of me, was the New Orleans Pelicans. I don't know if you know anything about that. I find that interesting that the Pelicans were watching Grizzlies basketball. As the
scouts come in and out of scouts come in.
But apparently the Pelicans were the only ones that were there, and that led me to thinking you have new GM, you have a new potential direction. I'm not going Zion here. I'm not even going with like a Murray or anything like that. I am going in a different direction. I'm going Herb Jones. That's where I'm going. You want to talk about a dog. Right, you want to talk about somebody
right there, Joe. That's
that is going to get after dudes at 6'6". He fits the timeline at about 26 years old. He makes sense money wise, only about a combined $28 million, a little more than that over the next couple of years. This guy could be had for Brandon Clark, Gigi Jackson, and a first round pick. This guy could be had for John Conchar. Piece together a couple more million here and there and a couple of first round picks. And you might say, Joe, for Herb Jones, you're out of your mind. That's way too much. Teams,
that's one of the best wing defenders out there.
And teams value their homegrown talent a heck of a lot more than you realize. See the Memphis Grizzlies, right? Exhibit A. So you might have to pay a bit of a tax to get a player that is a proven. His three-point shooting went down a little bit last season, but he's shot well in the past from three. And again, one of the best point of attack defenders in the NBA. Imagine him and Jalen Wells next to each other on the wing, right? That is an interesting pairing alongside Ja Morant. If Desmond Bane's out of a game, that is a group that Ja could have his way while those guys take on the major defensive assignments. That's my keeping it real. We know the Pelicans might move on from Zion. They might do some other things.
Yeah.
You might have to pay a little bit more to get somebody on a good contract like that, but he solves a lot of problems for this Memphis team.
Yeah, I like that one. Herb Jones, he shot the ball a little bit better now as he's kind of gotten, into his career. He's a guy, I mean, he's a starter. So that one is an interesting one. Do we got time for one more? Or we want to move on. Like, where are we at with this?
You know what? We can. The draft talk segment, I think, is going to be a little bit shorter. So let's go over here. Give me one more.
This one is one I think he's been injured a lot, so you would really be taking a chance here. What about Malcolm Brogdon? Multi-position
Wahoo
guy.
wah, baby. Wahoo
Oh yeah,
wah.
he fits. He
You don't
fits
have
you.
to tell me twice.
Look, can play on the ball.
Him and Jay Huff
Can play off the ball. It clearly can shoot. I mean, one of the guys who's still in the league who had a 50-40-90 season. People tend to forget that with Malcolm Brogdon. He had a 50-40-90 season. The efficiency is there. When he was with, the Celtics, the injuries happened and whatnot, but he was still a very efficient player with them. The injuries has always been the thing with him over the course of his career. But when he's out there, he's a plus defender. He's strong. He's very strong. He's Desmond Bain type strong, and he can play the point. He can play off the ball. He can play on the ball. So you can put him in lineups with Desmond Bain. You can put him in lineup with John Morant. Another guy who works well in that role of another guard to go off the bench with Scotty, who's a plus defender.
I love it. I would love me some Malcolm Brogdon. You know what I would really like about Malcolm Brogdon? It's going to be cheap.
Yeah.
He's got a lot to prove. That's a veteran minimum guy that you could kind of like Derrick Rose, where you could sell him on hey, we have an opportunity for you here. You could be the 9th, 10th man in the rotation, play 12 to 14 minutes a night. You're not going to be expected to be the 6th man of the year that you were years ago.
Yeah.
I think we might have just fixed the Memphis Grizzlies, by the way, because you know what the great thing is about all three of those names that we said? You could acquire all three of them and still keep Jaren and Dez.
You don't gotta move your big guns. Mm-hmm.
Look at that. We just fixed the Memphis Grizzlies. You have a job, but I also have a job. But if you want to hire me, Zach
Put us in the
Kleiman,
front office.
Just move me in, right? Yeah, all I need is help me with some moving expenses, and I'll be there as I'll hang out with Tayshaun Prince. I'll learn a lot from him, and he'll learn a lot from me if he's watching Locked On Grizzlies. Sorry, I had to laugh at that one. He knows more about basketball. He's forgotten more about basketball than I'll ever know. Hit Damichael up on X at Damichael C. Hit me up at Joe Mullinax. Do you have other more realistic names? I'm being kind of serious. I think Damichael and I just fixed the Memphis Grizzlies, but maybe you can think of some more realistic ones other than Brogdon and Jones and NAW. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, we'll close out this episode. Again, spoiler alert, probably going to be a shorter segment, little draft talk to close out this Friday. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you'll be ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25, that's my personal favorite, to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It is gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, you can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus Max, and so much more. You can play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. And if you already have a console like me, because you're an old guy, a Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your or your kids' games, they're my games, wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Go check that out. So, Damichael, I know you know this, but the Grizzlies don't have a ton going on in this upcoming NBA draft. I believe they have currently slated 2 second-round picks.
2 late seconds,
if I'm correct. Yeah, one I think is 48 overall, and then one is 56 overall. Now, this is the time of year where I get to shout out my favorite website this time of year, Tankathon, right? I'm a big Tankathon guy, tankathon.com. If you don't have that bookmarked, Grizzlies fans, I wish I could tell you that you should bookmark it because it's a wonderful source. but they have 2 late second round picks, barring something unforeseen. Maybe you don't need a bookmark, you just check it every once in a while. Here's what I see in the draft. Not much in terms of the Grizzlies actually bringing in pieces that are going to help them. But good news, they're good at second round picks. So I think there is a window for them to maybe trade up, right? If somebody doesn't have any picks, I think that's very possible in this particular draft that they might choose to do that. You have teams that don't have selections like the Denver Nuggets, don't have any second round picks. So maybe you give up both of yours for a future sweetener or something along those lines. Or maybe you want to move up to 42 where the Sacramento Kings are, and you give them 48 and 56 to give them another bite at the apple. I could see Memphis doing something along those lines. And I have names that I like a John Tanji. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Shooting guard from Wisconsin. I like him. I like Elijah Martin from Florida. I like Maxime Reynond, a center from Stanford. And yes, I have actually looked up these guys. I actually know they exist. But you know what? All these people of Ryan Kalkbrenner from Creighton, these are all names that I've done preliminary research on that are picking in the late 30s, 40s. That could be there for the Grizzlies. You know what all these people have in common, Damichael?
What's that?
They're old as dirt, comparatively speaking. We're talking about dudes that are Tanji from Wisconsin, who Tankathon actually has going to the Grizzlies at 56. He is 24 years old. So he would be older than Gigi Jackson by several years, even after playing several years of college basketball. I'm talking about dudes that are 22 at the youngest, right? And this is because if you're going to bring somebody into this Grizzlies team, what would it be at this point? Quintupling down on youth? And Zach Kleiman has said numerous times, we didn't do that on purpose. Okay, if you're going to hold on to these second round picks, bring in people that, you know, might actually be decent basketball players. I can't believe I'm about to say this. John Conchar was an undrafted player.
Oh, he was a what, Joe?
Okay. He was an undrafted player, but he has turned himself into an end of bench-ish rotation, not quite, but still an NBA player. Like that is somebody that they scouted and they did well with. Jalen Wells is the most recent success story. Cam Spencer could be that success story if it happens the way we all assume it will, and they take his two-way contract and convert it to a full-time one.
Yeah.
Whoever you say for your prospects, if they are not actual ready to contribute, even if it's end of bench G League contribute, if they're not ready to do that right now, I'm not interested. Point blank, period.
Yeah, the draft this year, there's a different approach. It doesn't matter as much in Memphis. And last year it mattered a lot because you had a top 10 pick and all of that. But here's where the whole draft talk starts with me. It starts with with two-way contracts. What do you expect to be available on the Grizzlies side? Here's the situation right now. Zion Pullen is the only player who's currently, when this season ends, who's going to be on a two-way contract for the Grizzlies. Yugi Kalmora and Cam Spencer will technically be free agents of sort. Cam Spencer's going to be back. I fully expect that to be the case. There's nothing to really even talk about much there.
He's pretty clearly the Luke Kennard replacement, isn't he? He's the next guy that gets a multi-year, very team-friendly deal.
I think that's exactly how we should put it. And with that being the case, you're going to have probably one two-way slot left open there. And so you got two picks. So simple math here. I think we're looking at a scenario where either they draft one guy and draft another draft and stash guy, or they trade those two picks, maybe one in the future, or they trade both of them up. But I think there's going to be some dealing. I don't think we're looking at a situation where the Grizzlies are drafting at 48 and 56 and are bringing, two players here in a couple days to have draft, the draft presser introduction or whatever you want to call it. I think they'll probably add one player, and then there will be some movement potentially, whether it's moving up to get higher up in the draft, or it's moving that pick to the future, getting two future seconds, or however they want to do it. I think that's kind of going to be the scenario here. But they already have, one draft and stash guy. Look, I've seen some people want us to talk about Bit Rose a little bit, and we will. I want to save that because he's still in season right now. Can we wait till that season is over with? They're in the playoffs right now. So when that season ends, we'll kind of recap what he did over there. I've been talking to some people over in the Euro League, so we'll have some good stuff to talk about when that time comes. But let's wait till the season's over there.
You haven't been talking to anybody about no Bieberovich.
You
Come
just,
on,
I like
Michael.
I like this guy. I think I did. I don't know if you were on with me, but I did a solo. I think I did a solo episode on him.
I'm going to be completely honest here.
Yeah.
The only times that I think of Tarek Biberovich are when you bring him up, and I'm fairly confident I sound like Charles Barkley when I try to pronounce his name.
Look, he can shoot the ball. He has that European flair, as I like to call it.
Maybe he's the Luke replacement. Maybe our boy Isolo feels that European vibe and brings him on over.
He could be. I mean, there's got to be some type of familiarity there, right? You're talking about Paris basketball, Fenerbahce. Like, it's got to be some type of familiarity there. But we'll talk about him a little bit. But yeah, the draft stash option is there, as well as the potential to move up. If I'm the Grizzlies, there's no way you're drafting both of these guys.
Yeah, they're definitely going to make a trade. And that's almost one of the most sure things every year, right? Zach Kleiman maybe a little too gun shy at the trade deadline to do things, but not gun shy during the draft. There's almost certainly some sort of deal that will occur at or around that time. Thank you guys so much for being with us on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. It is appreciated. Now that you have made us your first listen today, for your second listen, go check out Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night until an NBA champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. To Michael, as always, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. When we're back together on Monday after your crazy young life, without having anything to tie you down, living the dream down in the 901. When I see you back here on Monday, let's start that player review series we've been talking about. Not Tarek Biberovich just yet, but maybe we take a look at a Dez, a Jerem. Maybe we go with the three kings of Memphis and kind of review how their seasons went.
Yeah, I like it. It's definitely that time of the year, and those guys all had interesting seasons, so it'd be a great time to break down what happened, the good, the bad, and the neutral within their seasons.
I think it's a good week for player reviews, and that will be where we start on Monday on our next episode. Make sure you're here with us. Make sure you're liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing wherever you get podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, YouTube. It's literally all good. Make sure you're with Damichael and I every step of the way as we grind through the off season ahead. Make sure that you are an everydayer at this point. If you're not, what are you doing? Hang out.
Shout out to the everydayers, man.
Every time an episode drops, shout out to the everydayers. We are glad that you're here, and we hope that you'll be back on Monday. For Damichael, I'm Joe. Stay locked in. Again, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, YouTube, wherever you get podcasts. We're free and available. We'll catch you next time. Have a great weekend. See you.